At my wedding reception, I caught my mother-in-law slipping something into my glass while she thought nobody was paying attention. She expected me to drink it, but I quietly switched our glasses instead. When she stood up for her toast, I smiled right back. That is when the real wedding chaos started. The mirror behind the bar showed everything. I was standing near the counter, adjusting my tie and trying to settle my nerves before the speeches when I saw her in the reflection. Linda Henderson, my brand new mother-in-law, looked perfect in a cream dress that fit like it was made for her. Her hair was smooth. Her makeup was flawless. She held a champagne flute, like she belonged on a magazine cover. At first, it looked normal. Then she opened her clutch and pulled out a tiny glass vial. My stomach dropped. She glanced around once. Then again. Quick, careful looks like she was checking for witnesses. Her fingers were neat, nails polished, movements calm. She tilted the vial over my glass. My glass. The flute with the little gold place card that said groom, written in Sarah's careful handwriting. A clear liquid fell in. 3 drops, maybe 4. It happened fast. A second or 2, and it was done. She slid the vial back into her clutch like it was nothing. Then she picked up her own glass, smiled, and walked away. She waved at Aunt Carol. She laughed at something my Uncle Pete said. She moved through the room like a friendly host, like she had not just tried to drug someone at her daughter's wedding. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it over the string quartet. I had known Linda Henderson for 2 years, 3 months, and 16 days. I counted because that is the kind of person I am. Details stick in my mind, especially when something feels off. Sarah and I met at a marketing conference in Denver. One of those lifeless hotel ballrooms where everyone pretends to be excited about business buzzwords. Sarah was giving a presentation on social media analytics. I was half asleep in the back until she made a joke about influencer culture that was actually funny. I laughed. She noticed. After her talk, we got coffee. Then dinner. Then I drove 6 hours every weekend for 4 months just to see her. When she introduced me to her parents, they seemed normal. Linda had taught high school English for 30 years before retiring. She had that teacher energy that makes you sit up straight, like she can see every mistake you make. Her husband Robert was a dentist. Quiet guy. He loved model trains and spent hours setting them up in the basement. They were polite, a little formal, but nothing scary. Until I proposed. That was 6 months before the wedding. Sarah said yes right away. She cried. She called her parents from the restaurant parking lot while I stood beside her, smiling like an idiot. Linda's voice came through the phone speaker, sharp and cold. She said it sounded sudden. Sarah's smile weakened. She reminded her mom we had been together almost 2 years. Linda told her to take time to think. Sarah said she had thought about it. Linda said Sarah barely knew me. I watched Sarah's face change. It was the look someone gets when a person they love says something that cuts deep. Sarah told her, quietly but firmly, that she knew me better than her mom did. The call ended fast. Too fast. Like Linda had decided the conversation was not worth continuing. After that, wedding planning became a slow disaster. Linda fought us on everything. The venue, the date, the guest list, the flowers, the food, even the music. At our first planning dinner, she complained that June weddings were common. Sarah said we liked June. Sarah said the riverside and felt rustic and charming. Linda smiled, but her eyes stayed cold. She said it was our wedding, like she was being generous, but the words sounded like a warning. Then the criticism turned into something worse. It became sabotage. Linda sent our invitations to the printer with the wrong date, then acted shocked when we noticed. She told Sarah's bridesmaids that dress fittings were canceled. She called the caterer and tried to change the menu to seafood, even though Sarah is allergic to shellfish. Every time, she played innocent. She used that sweet teacher voice, the one that sounds polite, but also says you are foolish for questioning her. She would say she misheard. She would say she misunderstood. She would say she was only trying to help. 3 weeks before the wedding, Sarah and I were picking up her dress when Linda called again. I heard Linda through the phone, loud enough that I caught most of it. She told Sarah to think about what she was doing. She suggested postponing like it was no big deal. Sarah said no, we are not postponing. Linda said marriage is hard, and Sarah is young. Sarah reminded her she is 28. Linda said exactly, as if that proved her point. Sarah hung up, hands shaking. Then she said something that hurt because it was true. She said her mom thinks I'm not good enough. I told Sarah her mom would get over it. Sarah looked at me and asked what if she does not. She did not. A week before the wedding, Sarah told me what Linda said behind my back. Linda told her I was not from their kind of family. My parents are both nurses. We grew up in a simple 3-bedroom house. I went to a state school with partial scholarship money. The Hendersons had more. Not billionaire money, but country club memberships, nicer vacations, a lake place in Wisconsin, the kind of comfort that makes people think their way is the correct way. Linda wanted Sarah to marry someone who matched that. Not me. The morning of the wedding, Linda arrived early and already looked ready for battle. I was in the groom's suite with my best man Marcus when I heard her voice in the hallway. She was demanding to speak with the event coordinator. I cracked the door open and saw Linda in a robe and curlers, holding a binder like a weapon. She told the coordinator that the seating chart was wrong. She said her sister needed table 4, not table 7. The coordinator, Beth, looked exhausted. She had been setting up since before sunrise. She tried to explain the chart was finalized weeks ago based on Sarah's choices. Linda cut her off. She said she did not care what Sarah wanted. She said she was telling Beth what needed to happen. Marcus whistled under his breath, and said my mother-in-law was intense. I told him she had tried to get Sarah to cancel. He asked why. I shrugged and told him Linda thinks I'm not good enough. Marcus joked that I have a good job, but my dad is not a dentist. Then he stopped joking and asked if I thought Linda would actually try to ruin the wedding. I said I thought she would love to ruin the wedding. Marcus said I might be paranoid. 3 hours later, I stood at the bar watching Linda Henderson put something into my champagne. Now I knew I was not paranoid. I stood there for a few seconds that felt like a full minute, trying to understand what I'd seen. My brain ran through denial first, because denial is faster than truth. Maybe she dropped something by accident. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I imagined it. But I saw the vial. I saw her look around. I saw the drops fall into my glass. She drugged me. At my own wedding. The bartender was busy pouring wine for someone else. The reception hall was loud and crowded. 200 people, music, laughter, expensive flowers, servers moving fast. Nobody was watching the bar except me. I walked over slowly, trying to look normal, like I was just getting my drink. Linda's glass sat near mine. Same kind of flute, same champagne, gold rim. The only difference was the place card by hers. It said Linda Henderson, mother of the bride. I glanced around. Nobody was paying attention. So I switched them. I slid her glass into the spot where mine had been. I slid my glass into the spot where hers had been. Then I picked up what was now my glass, the clean one, and carried it back toward the head table. My legs felt weak, but I forced myself to keep my face calm. Sarah was laughing with her bridesmaids. She looked beautiful, happy, glowing. Her dress was vintage lace, the kind that made her look like she stepped out of an old photo. She had no idea what her mother just tried to do. I sat down beside her and made myself breathe normally. Marcus leaned close and asked if I was okay. That I told him I was great. He said I looked like I was about to throw up. I told him it was wedding nerves. He laughed and said the hard part was over. I watched Linda drift back toward the head table like she owned the room. She chatted with my mother about the flowers. She smiled at people. She acted like the perfect mother-in-law. Then she sat down right in front of the glass she had poisoned. The toast started about 5 minutes later. Marcus went first. He told a funny story about college and how I once tried to cook dinner for a date and set off a fire alarm. People laughed. Sarah squeezed my hand. Then Linda stood up. She picked up her glass. My glass. The one she had spiked. She turned toward the crowd and smiled like a proud parent. She said she wanted to welcome her new son-in-law into the family. She said it warmly, with that steady teacher rhythm, clear and confident. She said they were blessed to have me. I felt Sarah relax beside me, like she was relieved her mother was behaving. But I was not watching Linda's face. I was watching her hand. Her fingers were wrapped around the stem of the flute. She kept talking about marriage like she was giving a lesson. Partnership, commitment, trust. On the word trust, she looked directly at me. Then she raised a glass for a toast to the happy couple. The room followed her. Everyone lifted their drinks. I lifted mine too, the clean one, and kept my eyes on her. Linda took a long drink. I only pretended to sip. She sat down, still smiling, and set the flute on the table. For a moment, nothing happened. 2 minutes passed. Then 3. Linda chatted with my father about golf, laughing like she was fine. Her face looked normal. I almost wondered if I got it wrong. Then I saw it. A small flicker, like a light dimming behind her eyes. She blinked too hard. She touched her forehead. Sarah leaned toward her. She asked if she was okay. Linda said she was fine. She said she was just emotional. But her hand was shaking. Another minute passed. She reached for her water glass, missed it, and knocked it over. Sarah said her name again, worried. Linda tried to stand. Her knees buckled. Robert grabbed her, but she still dropped back in her chair. Her skin went pale. Her eyes looked unfocused, like she could not lock onto the room. She tried to speak, but the words came out thick and slurred. She said she did not feel right. Then she sagged in the chair, heavy and limp. The entire hall fell silent. Robert shouted for someone to call 911. Chaos exploded. Guests rushed toward the head table. Sarah started crying. Marcus pulled out his phone. People talked over each other, confused and scared. I stood up and walked back to the bar. The bartender looked terrified. She kept saying she only served champagne. I told her Linda had more than champagne. I pulled out my phone and took photos of the table setup, the flutes, the place cards, everything I could capture before people moved things around. Then I went back toward Linda's chair. Her clutch purse was sitting there. Sarah was kneeling beside her mother, begging her to respond. I opened the clutch quickly and found the vial in a side pocket. Small glass tube, a little liquid still at the bottom. I slipped it into my pocket. The paramedics arrived fast. The inn was close to the hospital. They lifted Linda onto a stretcher. Robert held her hand, face tight with fear. One paramedic asked what she took. I pulled out the vial and told them what I thought happened. That she put in my drink, then drank it herself after I switched the glasses. The paramedic's eyes widened. He examined it and said it looked like a strong sedative, possibly a benzodiazepine type medication. He said that amount could depress breathing. Those words hit me like ice. Depress breathing. That means stop breathing. My hand started shaking harder. Linda did not just try to embarrass me. She risked my life. The police arrived soon after. An officer named James Cardona took my statement while Robert rode in the ambulance with Linda. He asked me to explain exactly what I saw. I told him about the mirror, the vial, the drops, the switch. He asked if I still had the vial. I handed it to him wrapped in a napkin. I told him I did not touch it directly because I thought they might want fingerprints. He looked at me for a moment like he was deciding if I was serious. Then he sealed it in an evidence bag. He asked if anyone else saw it. I said the bartender could confirm the bar setup, and the venue likely had cameras. Beth, the coordinator, told me earlier there were cameras aimed at the bar area. Officer Cardona said they would check right away. Then he told me something that made my stomach drop. He said I was not under arrest, but if my mother-in-law died, this would turn into a homicide investigation. Sarah grabbed my arm and insisted her mom would not die. The officer said they did not know yet. He told me not to leave town. Then he left. The reception ended in stunned silence. People filtered out slowly, whispering. The quartet packed up. The cake sat untouched. The room that had been full of joy an hour earlier felt empty and cold. Sarah and I sat alone at the head table. Sarah stared at the spilled water, trembling. She said her mother tried to drug me. I told her yes. Sarah asked why. I said because Linda did not want Sarah to marry me. Sarah looked sick. She asked what the plan was. I told her my guess. Linda wanted me to pass out or act strange, so I would look drunk or unstable or embarrassing. Anything that would make Sarah doubt me, even for a moment. Sarah said her mom told her last week that marrying me was the biggest mistake of her life. I asked why Sarah did not tell me. Sarah said she thought her mom would calm down after the wedding. She thought her mom would see how happy we were and accept it. Instead, her mom tried to poison me. We sat in silence, both of us breathing hard like we just ran a long distance. Marcus returned and said the police were pulling security footage from the bar camera. Then he got a call and said Linda was stable. The hospital pumped her stomach. She was going to survive. I felt relief and then guilt for feeling relief. I did not want her dead. I just wanted her stopped. We went to the hospital anyway. Robert was in the waiting room, looking like he aged 10 years in 1 hour. He said Linda was awake and asking for Sarah. He led us to her room. Linda lay propped up in bed, pale, shaky, and forward her arm. When she saw me, her face tightened, angry even through weakness. She asked why I was there. Sarah said, I saved her life. Linda gave a bitter laugh, like the words tasted bad. I told Linda the truth. She poisoned herself. She put something in my drink. I switched our glasses. Linda tried to deny it. I told her there was security footage. Her face went white. Robert stepped forward and asked if it was true. Linda did not answer for a few seconds. Then she said she was trying to help Sarah. She used that calm teacher voice again, the one that sounds reasonable until you hear what it is saying. She said Sarah was making a mistake. Sarah asked how drugging someone counts as help. Linda said she was not going to hurt me, only make me sick, make me embarrassed, make Sarah see who I really was. I felt heat rise in my chest. I told her she did not even know me. Linda said she knew my type. I asked what that meant. Linda said social climbers, users, people who see a family with money and attach themselves. I told her I make a normal salary. I paid for half the wedding. I did not need her money. Linda asked why I wanted Sarah then. I said because I love Sarah. Linda laughed again, cold and sharp. She said love is not enough. She said marriage is hard. She said young people do not understand what happens when a romance fades and real work starts. I asked her if that is why she tried to poison me. Linda said she tried to save her daughter. Sarah was crying, furious and broken at the same time. Sarah told her mother she does not get to decide who Sarah marries. Sarah said she chose me. Linda called her sweetheart again, like she could still control the moment. Sarah snapped and told her not to call her that after what she did. Officer Cardona appeared at the doorway. He told Linda she was under arrest for assault with a controlled substance. He said the footage was clear. The next morning, I watched the security video at the police station. It felt unreal, like a nightmare replay. The timestamp showed Linda at the bar. She looked around twice. She pulled out the vial. She tilted it. Drops fell into my glass. Then she put it away and walked off smiling. Minutes later, I entered frame, switched the glasses, and left. The officer said it was simple, clear evidence. He said the district attorney would file charges. I asked what charges. He listed them in plain terms, including attempted assault and possession of a controlled substance with intent to harm. He said prison time was possible. That is when it hit me fully. My mother-in-law might go to jail because of what she did at my wedding. Not because I switched the glasses, because she decided to commit a crime. News spread fast. Someone always leaks things. A guest overhears a rumor. A staff member texts a friend. A police scanner picks up chatter. By afternoon, people were posting about it online. My phone filled with messages. Calls from numbers I did not recognize. Emails from strangers asking for comment. Sarah and I ignored all of it. We went on our honeymoon anyway. 2 weeks in Scotland that we planned for months. It was strange to stand on a quiet hillside while everything back home was exploding. Strange to walk through castles and pretend our wedding did not end with an ambulance and handcuffs. One night in Edinburgh, sitting in a warm pub with rain tapping the windows, Sarah asked if her mom would really go to prison. I told her I did not know. Sarah said she hated her mom for what she did. Then she cried and said she still missed her mom. I told her it was not crazy. She loved her mom and her mom betrayed her. Both feelings can live in the same heart. 3 months later, Linda accepted a plea deal. Her lawyer tried to claim she was not thinking clearly because of medication. The prosecutor did not buy it. Linda was sentenced to 2 years in county jail with eligibility for parole after a set portion. Sarah did not attend the sentencing. Robert did not attend either. Robert filed for divorce soon after the arrest. 32 years of marriage ended like a snapped rope. I attended the sentencing, sitting in the back with Marcus. Linda looked smaller in court. Older. Gray hair. No makeup. No perfect dress. Jail uniform instead of designer clothes. When the judge asked if she had anything to say, Linda repeated that she only wanted what was best for her daughter. The judge, a woman with steel gray hair and a steady voice, said she had heard that excuse for decades. Parents claiming protection while doing harm. The judge said what Linda did was not protection. It was control, and it was criminal. Sarah submitted a written statement. The judge read it aloud. It said Linda taught Sarah many good things, but also taught her that love was conditional and approval mattered more than happiness. It said Sarah was building a life with a man who trusted her choices. It said Sarah hoped Linda got help, but Sarah did not forgive her. Linda cried in court. When she was led away, she looked back at the empty seat Sarah would have used. Later, Sarah and I watched the footage once at home in silence. When it ended, Sarah asked if I regretted switching the glasses. I told her no. Linda made her choice. Linda poured the drops. Linda started this. Sarah asked if I should have confronted her at the bar instead. I told Sarah the crime still happened the moment Linda spiked the drink. The proof mattered. The truth mattered. Sarah said she did not think she could ever forgive her mom. I told her she did not have to. Sarah thanked me for not forcing her to choose between me and her mother. I told her I would never do that. Her mother made her choose every day. I would not. Months passed. Linda was eventually released on parole. Sarah received a letter in her mother's handwriting. Sarah read it once and put it away. I asked what it said. Sarah said Linda was sorry, said she was in therapy, asked to meet for coffee. I asked Sarah if she wanted to go. Sarah asked if I would be okay with it. I told her it was not about me. It was about what she needed. If she wanted to meet her mother, she could. If she did not have to. Sarah said that was what trust looks like. She smiled, small and sad, then admitted her mother was right about one thing. Marriage is work. I agreed, but I told her it is the good kind of work. The kind that builds a home, not the kind that destroys one. I told Sarah I would marry her again, even knowing what happened at the reception. Sarah laughed, real laughter, the first time in a while. The letter stayed in the drawer. For a long time. Because healing has its own timing. And because in the end, the most important thing was simple. Linda tried to control the story with poison. But the truth was stronger. And Sarah and I chose each other anyway.